Hi, this is Les and Amy from the RevGenetics podcast. You can listen to the podcast on YouTube and now on Spotify, where we do a deep dive on supplements and longevity studies. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating 2024 scientific paper about how a tiny molecule called NAD acts like a master cellular battery for your heart. And we're going to explore how giving your heart the raw materials to build more of this stuff can actually protect you from various forms of heart disease.
Yeah, it's honestly a huge shift in how we think about heart health. I mean, we're so used to treating the heart like a mechanical pump,
You're
right?
right.
But this study shows we really need to be looking at it as an electrical grid. It's all about managing the power supply.
Which makes sense because, the physical demand on the human heart is just wild when you actually think about it. I mean, it beats roughly 100,000 times a day.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It never takes a day off. So
It-
to keep that kind of heavy-duty engine running, you obviously need a massive amount of power.
Exactly, and that's where this NAD molecule comes in. It stands for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, but
Yeah, let's just stick with NAD.
right, let's definitely just say NAD. Basically, you can think of it as a microscopic rechargeable battery that lives inside every single cell in your body.
Okay, so like a tiny battery.
Yeah, or even like a fleet of tiny delivery trucks.
Yeah.
They're just constantly shuttling these microscopic packets of energy from the food we eat directly into the cellular engines. That's what actually makes your heart muscle contract.
So because the heart works harder than literally any other muscle, it just needs an absolute ton of these delivery trucks.
Precisely. As long as it has enough of these NAD batteries, everything hums along. But the study points out that things go completely off the rails when the heart gets put under severe stress.
Like what kind of stress? We're talking about like high blood pressure.
Yeah, high blood pressure or a heart attack or even the chaos of diabetes.
Mm.
When that happens, two really devastating things occur at the exact same time. First, the body's natural factory that makes fresh NAD, it just shuts down.
Oh, wow. So production just stops.
Exactly. And second, this stress triggers these special emergency repair enzymes to fix the cellular damage. But those enzymes require a massive amount of energy. So they start chewing through whatever existing batteries are left.
Wait, if our bodies naturally make this stuff, why do we need to take extra building blocks? I mean, why can't we just, eat a big healthy salad, get 8 hours of sleep, and just let the body replenish its own battery supply naturally?
That's a great question. So imagine a smartphone. Normally, plugging it into the wall at night, which is like getting your sleep and eating well,
Yeah.
that's totally enough.
Right, you wake up at 100%.
Exactly. But if you have every single app open, the screen is on full brightness, the flashlight is on, and you're streaming a movie in the hot sun.
It's going to drain in like 10 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
It drains way faster than the cord can charge it. Heart disease is exactly like running all those apps at once. The natural factory just can't keep up with the extreme drain, so you need a supercharger. You have to bring in outside building blocks.
Okay, that makes total sense. So the factory is broken, the emergency workers are destroying the remaining batteries, and the heart is literally running out of power.
Yep. So the scientists in this study discovered they could give the body specific battery parts. They call them precursors, like NR, NMN, and NM.
And for anyone listening, we can just think of those as like the raw materials you need to snap a new battery together.
Exactly. It's a cellular shortcut. The heart just takes these pre-assembled parts, clicks them together, and totally bypasses the broken factory.
That's amazing. And the results in the study were pretty staggering, right? Like it actually stops the heart muscle from getting dangerously thick.
Yeah, that thickening is called hypertrophy. When the heart pushes against high blood pressure, it acts like a bodybuilder lifting weights. The muscle fibers get thicker.
Which sounds good, but it's not.
No, because thick muscle becomes stiff muscle. And stiff muscle can't relax to fill with blood. But when you restore the NAD batteries, the cells get a signal that the energy crisis is over, and it stops that panic-induced thickening.
Wow. And didn't it also help with the damage from an actual heart attack?
It did. The study showed that having these newly charged batteries preloaded actually reduces the physical size of the damaged tissue after a heart attack. Plus, it protects the heart's power plants from, well, oxidative stress.
Which is basically cellular rusting, right? Like, I know what rust looks like on an old car, but what is physically happening to my heart cells?
So sometimes oxygen molecules inside the cell lose an electron, and they turn into these like frantic little molecular vandals. They bounce around stealing pieces of the cell walls to stabilize themselves.
Oh, man, so they're just tearing the place up.
Literally. That's oxidative stress. But high levels of NAD power, the internal cleanup crews that neutralize those vandals, it scrubs the rust away.
So we're really rebuilding the power grid from the inside out. Exploring this kind of cutting-edge cellular science is exactly why we're thrilled to have RevGenetics sponsoring this deep dive.
Yeah, their long-term focus on evidence-based natural compounds for aging is so important, especially since they provide the exact NAD battery building blocks we're talking about today, like NMN and NR.
It's wonderful to see their commitment to longevity aligning so perfectly with this research on heart health.
It really is. And, when you look at where this research is heading, the future applications are just profoundly exciting.
I mean, if snapping these simple battery parts together makes a failing heart that resilient, could we use them preemptively, like before someone undergoes aggressive cancer treatment?
Yeah, that leads exactly into cardio-oncology. We have these amazing cancer-fighting drugs today, like doxorubicin. It's fantastic at shrinking tumors.
But there's a trade-off.
A huge one. It acts almost like a direct poison to the heart muscle. The collateral damage to the heart's power plants is severe.
Because the cancer drug drains the heart's batteries, right? So survivors are left with heart damage years after they beat the cancer.
Exactly. But this study offers a protective strategy. In the future, giving a patient these NAD battery parts before they start harsh chemotherapy could act as a preemptive cellular shield.
Oh, wow. So you saturate the grid with raw materials, keep the engine pumping, but it doesn't stop the cancer medicine from doing its job.
Right. It's an absolute game changer for oncology patients.
Okay, here's where the mechanics got wildly fascinating to me, though. There was this incredible nuance about when you actually take these building blocks. Like, the time of day matters.
Yes, this is the absolute cutting edge. Every single cell in your heart has its own internal ticking clock, your circadian rhythm.
So our battery levels aren't just a flat line.
No, not at all. The researchers found that protection against something like a heart attack changes significantly depending on if it happens during the day or the night.
Because the body ramps up production during the day and powers down at night to do maintenance.
Exactly. The core clock genes in your heart physically control the recycling center that snaps these NAD parts together.
So if you take a massive dose at noon, when the body's already working at max capacity, it might not do much.
Right. But if you deliver those parts in the middle of the night, which is historically when a lot of severe heart attacks occur, the protective shield is massive.
That's crazy. So the future of cardiology isn't just what compound to give, but exactly when to give it to sync with the patient's biological clock.
Exactly. But to be responsible, we have to look at the limitations. We're still waiting on massive human clinical trials to figure out the perfect dosages and timelines.
Right, because a mouse is not a human.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the study noted these battery parts aren't all interchangeable. Like, NMN might be superior for penetrating specific heart tissue, while NM might get processed totally differently by the liver.
Got it. So we need expansive human data. But looking at the big picture, this really changes the whole philosophy of heart health. For decades, it feels like doctors treated the heart like a plumbing system.
Right. You get a clogged pipe, they clear the blockage or install a bypass.
But this NAD research is a total paradigm shift. Instead of treating it like plumbing, we might soon treat the heart like a highly advanced energy grid.
Recharging the cellular batteries so the engine doesn't break down in the first place. It actively upgrades the system's biological resilience.
That is just such an awe-inspiring way to view human biology. I mean, think about your own heart beating right now. What kind of cellular power grid are you building for it? And if dialing in our circadian rhythms maximizes how we use these batteries, it makes you wonder how, staring at screens at midnight might be quietly draining our energy reserves before we even wake up.
It's definitely something to think about.
We hope today's podcast on the published science gave you something meaningful to take away. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to the RevGenetics podcast.
RevGenetics.com for the best longevity supplements on Earth.